Yo, what's going on, Epic 7 fam? I'm Sue, and I'm fashionably late once again in bringing you this artifact selector tier list for the Epic 2025 event. You already know the reasons why, but it's going to be very similar to the RGB 5-star hero selector tier list that I already did. And in case you missed that, it will be linked down in this video's description. As with that video, I'll be going over all of the options that I think are worth choosing, so that way you can make an informed decision and choose the best artifact for your account. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump into it, starting with breaking down the tiers and what each of them means. First up is staple artifact. These are just the 6 artifacts that I think every single person should have on their account. I think that will give you the most amount of benefit. After that, we come to meta/multiple users. These are just the commonly played artifacts that are played on multiple characters throughout Epic 7 in multiple different scenarios. After that, we have meta single user. These are usually the best in slot options, but they really only apply to like one character on your account at any given time. So for example, like an offer you can't refuse might be the best option for like Elegos, whereas something like Shamadra staff, it has multiple users, but you're only ever going to have one person on the Shamadra staff at any given time. So multiples aren't really that amazing. After that, we have niche/MLM. These are kind of like oddball choices, ones that are not necessarily bad, but they're kind of like off meta builds for characters. Like sometimes you'll see them, but they are very infrequent. And then after that, we have obviously the don't even bother. These ones are on the tier list, but there's not a good enough reason to necessarily take them. For example, like Sword of Summer Twilight, he's very good on Vildred, but he's the only real user, and Vildred has other options they could get away with, so it's not necessarily worth it to take it unless like you just don't have a lot of these artifacts and you have most of the other ones that we're going to talk about in the video. And then can't choose are just the ones that, well, either they're limited and came out recently, or they are just something like Thorn of the Blue Rose, where it just hasn't been long enough for them to be eligible to be taken with a selector. So let's start it off by going through the staple artifacts. These are the 6 I think are most worth your artifact selector, starting with Abyssal Crown. So Abyssal Crown makes it so that the equipped mage, whenever they attack, has a chance to stun the target, and this applies to AoE attacks as well. So if you use a character like a Harseti or Solitary of the Snow, who just pretty much always AoE attacks, you have 4 times the chances to stun an enemy, and in PvP, that is straight up game deciding. It can just win games out of nowhere, which is why it's historically always been a very powerful artifact. And it's also used in certain PvE strategies in things like Abyss or Advent to cheese particularly hard fights. It just, having Abyssal Crown on your account will make things a lot easier. You should always have one in your back pocket. It's always something to consider with any AoE mage in the game. After Abyssal Crown comes Bloodstone, which changes the equipped ranger into a pseudo healer. Whenever they deal damage, they will heal the person on your team with the lowest amount of HP. This is super useful in a lot of challenging content such as Advent, Abyss, and Ancient Inheritance, and it's also commonly played in expeditions. It is a very strong PvE artifact, and while there are comparable other options, the reason why I decided to leave Bloodstone in the staple artifact section is because it does not have an accompanying banner, which means if you do not pick it here with your selector, you just have to get lucky and get spooked by it on some random other banner or a daily summon. So given its general rarity and its overall usefulness in a lot of PvE content, that's why it lands itself here. Similar to Bloodstone, we come to Celestine next. Whenever the equipped Soul Weaver uses a single target attack, they will heal the ally on your team with the lowest amount of HP. Now, the reason why Celestine is good is because not every Soul Weaver can heal, and this artifact gives them some way to do so. There are also many difficult fights in the game where traditional non-attack skill heals are punished, and this artifact lets you play around those things. It's also useful for a number of PvP heroes, such as Blood Moon Haste. After Celestine, we come to Holy Sacrifice. The equipped knight has a percentage chance to revive when they die for the first time in each battle. At max level, this percentage on the artifact is 100%, meaning it is a guaranteed revive. Holy Sacrifice is a staple in many PvP game modes such as Guild Wars and World Arena, and you usually will want at least one knight on your account holding this artifact, sometimes even 2. The real issue with Holy Sacrifice and why it's somewhat hard to recommend is that it really doesn't become worth it until you get your 4th or 5th copy, making it something that players are going to have to probably burn multiple selectors on, or you just take it if you already have a Holy Sacrifice that has a couple of copies in it. Again, at some point you will want a plus 30 Holy Sacrifice on your account if you're serious about PvP. So only take this if you're really committed towards just, playing the long game, taking a plus 15 one and waiting till you get more copies, or you are willing to burn multiple selectors on it. Similarly, our next artifact is Secret Art Storm Sword. It gives an attack buff and a combat readiness boost to the wearer whenever an enemy uses a non-attack skill. This artifact's effectiveness is tied to the number of copies you have, making it really inconsistent until you have at least 4 or 5 copies of it, but ideally the full 6. This is an artifact that you will eventually need to get a plus 30 copy of on your account if you're even remotely serious about any forms of PvP in this game. So in my opinion, I would take at least 1 copy now if you don't have it, and start building towards a completed one over time. And then finally, the last artifact of the staple artifacts tier is Wind Rider. It's just generically the best overall damage artifact for thieves. It gives a flat attack boost and a damage amp plus stealth if the equipped user ever secures a kill. Honestly, you could just never have enough copies of Wind Rider for the thieves on your account, which is why I leave it here in the staple artifact section. With our staple artifacts out of the way, let's move on now and talk about the meta artifacts that have 1 or more users, starting with Alexa's Basket. Alexa's Basket has a chance to grant attack buff or greater attack buff to the wearer. In some cases, this is better than Wind Rider for some characters such as Bloodblade Corinne or Arbiter Vildred, so if you're interested in those heroes, it's a solid pickup. But for thieves that already have built-in attack buffs before they actually deal their damage, Wind Rider is generally going to be the better option. After Alexa's Basket, we come to Bastion of Pelusia. The equipped knight gives themselves and the person in the back position immunity as well as barrier at the start of the fight. And this is important because it allows you to buff stack to play around certain problems in PvP. For those of you guys who don't know what buff stacking is, let me explain. You see, in Epic 7, most debuffers can only strip 2 buffs at a time. So if you have a hero who already has immunity and barrier, and they also start with a 3rd buff such as stealth or immortality due to an artifact or passive, then they're going to be safe from being hit by most debuffs until their first turn a lot of the time. You see, the stripper will get rid of 2 of your buffs, most likely the barrier and say stealth, leaving the immunity intact. Bastion of Pelusia is very important to have at least 1 or 2 copies on your account for your knights in order to counter a lot of these 2 buff strip characters that are found in PvP. After Bastion of Pelusia, we come to Doctor's Bag, which heals the team and cleanses 1 debuff whenever the equipped Soul Weaver uses a non-attack skill. This is your best in slot option most of the time for heroes like Moon Bunny Dominiel and Elena, which gives them extra healing and cleanses in their kit that they wouldn't normally have. Next we have Durandal, which is a really simple artifact. Whenever the equipped warrior is dealt damage, they gain a combat readiness boost. In the current metagame, this is most commonly played on Designer Lilibet to disrupt fast strategies. That's kind of what Durandal is for in general. It's a tech choice you deploy on certain warriors on your account so that way they can cut in front of opponents who use AoE attacks to try to gain the upper hand. It's usually not the best option, but it is usable in a lot of spots if you're smart about it, which is why it lands here. After Durandal, we come to historically one of the strongest artifacts in the game in Elber's Ritual Sword. And I gotta say, oh how the mighty have fallen on this one. Elber's Ritual Sword used to be the best artifact in the game for knights who are looking to deal damage, but now that goes to the limited artifact 3F. Still, if you're in the market for getting some extra damage on your counter DPS knights, this is still a good artifact. It's most notably used on Abyssal Euphine, but hey, there are still other users out there such as Navy Captain Landy once in a blue moon. Next up is another artifact I used to rate higher on my tier list, and that is Golden Rose. Golden Rose gives lifesteal and bonus damage to warriors who primarily scale off of max health or max defense for their damage. It's not that Golden Rose is bad, remember I used to put this in the staple category in a lot of my tier lists. It's just that the characters that use Golden Rose aren't particularly good right now. That said, it's still worth picking up a copy or 2 just in case the meta shifts, because if and when it does, you will want multiple copies of this artifact. After that, we come to Shepherd of the Hollow, which is just a generically good artifact to give to thieves that want to not only increase their dodge chance, but also their damage. Most notably, it's good on dodge-based characters like Auden, but it's also pretty good on certain other characters like Bloodblade Corinne. After Shepherd, we come to Sigurd Scythe, which is a very similar story to Golden Rose. It's almost the same exact artifact. It gives built-in lifesteal and also increases damage of the warrior that is wearing it. But while Golden Rose increases the damage for health and defense scaling characters, Sigurd Scythe is a bit better for attack scaling characters. So if your character scales off attack, you're going to want Sigurd Scythe. Otherwise, you're going to take Golden Rose. Just like with Golden Rose, the Sigurd Scythe users aren't necessarily the best right now, but if the meta ever shifts, you're going to want to have multiple copies of this thing. And finally, the last artifact in this tier is Uberius Tooth. Whenever the equipped warrior deals damage, it deals bonus damage based on their current attack to all of the characters that it targets. This is most notably used on Inheritor Amiki as well as Lone Wolf Peyra, two highly played characters with two drastically different playstyles. If you're interested in playing either one of these characters, Uberius' Tooth is absolutely worth the pickup. Do note, by the way, that Uberius' Tooth does not have an accompanying banner, making it quite a bit rarer than every other artifact that is in this tier, so if you are even remotely interested, you should pick it up. Next up, let's move on to our single user tier. Remember, these are still meta artifacts. They are ones that you will see fairly common on ladder or fairly commonly in PvE strategies, but there's pretty much only really one use case or one real user, or an account really only wants one copy of them. Let's start with an offer you can't refuse, which is primarily used on Eligos to increase his overall damage. After that, we come to Bird's Eye View, which is a Tehagel's Ancient Book basically for Soul Weavers. You're going to want to have at least one maxed out copy on your account if you are an aggressive player or a cleaver. It's sometimes used on various different Soul Weavers. I think perhaps like a Frida or a Moonbunny Dominiel, hell, maybe even a Desert Jewel Basar. I'm not necessarily a cleaver, but I know that aggressive players tell me that you want at least one copy of this. It is useful for certain aggressive strategies. Next up is Double-Edged Crescent, which is the more defensive version of Shepherd of the Hollow. This artifact trades out the bonus damage of Shepherd in exchange for giving the thief the ability to counterattack. This one is primarily used on dodge-based characters such as Remnant Violet. After that, we come to Etika Scepter. At the start of the turn, there is a chance that the equipped mage lowers all of their cooldowns by one turn. This is a playstyle defining artifact for the slower Bruiser New Moon Lunas that are played in PvP game modes. It does require multiple copies like Holy Sacrifice or Secret Art Stormsword to truly be effective. After that, we come to Merciless Glutton, which increases the single target damage of the equipped user while also increasing the team's combat readiness if that warrior secures a kill. This makes it a perfect choice for Successor Teiyu. After that, we come to Noble Oath, which gives bonus defense and effect resistance as the equipped knight's health goes lower. This makes it an amazing choice for the tank builds for Bossa Rumka. After that, we come to Renewed Will, which is an incredible artifact for aggressive rangers. It increases their team's attack percentage and also gives a combat readiness boost whenever they use an AoE attack skill. If Red Litica is your bread and butter unit that you want to play, then this artifact is a great pickup for you. After that, Rise of a Monarch. This gives a barrier to the ally on your team with the lowest amount of health at the end of the equipped knight's turn. It is primarily used for Empyrean Illidan due to her incredible turn cycling thanks to her passive. After Rise, we come to Rod of Amaryllis. I used to rate this artifact a lot higher in the past. Whenever the equipped Soul Weaver uses a non-attack skill, it heals the ally on the team with the lowest amount of health. This makes it great for early PvE gameplay, but as you get further along in Epic 7, many other artifacts such as Celestine, Unfading Memories, and more tend to shine just a bit brighter. As a result, I moved Rod of Amaryllis down here into the meta section. Rod of Amaryllis, by the way, doesn't have an accompanying banner, making it a bit rarer than the other artifacts in this tier, in case you're interested in grabbing it. After that, we come to Sacred Tree Branch, which is primarily used to increase the effectiveness for Dragon King Sharoon if you want to play her on very aggressive teams, say, for example, alongside Renak. After that, we come to Shamadra's Staff. This increases the healing potency of the equipped Soul Weaver while also giving 20% effect resistance to the entire team. This is great for heroes like Maid Chloe that thrive in high effect resistance teams to begin with. A mandatory artifact for players who want to play a lot of high effect resistance units on their account. And finally, in this tier, we come to Stella Harpa. When the equipped Soul Weaver takes damage, there is a chance that they cleanse one debuff from all allies. This is primarily played on Green Rwana, as she is commonly used in scenarios where the enemy is using only AoE attacks. And finally, the Lightning Round, aka the niche tier. These are barely usable, but hey, at least they're still usable. So let's just very quickly run through the rest of these. Starting with Air to Surface Missile Misha. This is primarily used by rangers who want not only damage, but extra hit chance versus dodge units. Think of things like Bryceria. After that, Ancient Dragon's Legacy. It's sometimes used by Red Lilies, who, to be honest, is barely used at all. It's largely meant to counter the two people that are still playing Blue Lua, or to just give herself a crit damage buff if she's trying to reverse cleave the opponent for, say, something like Guild Wars. After that, we come to Crown of Glory. It reduces AoE damage and drains souls from the opponent whenever they use an AoE attack. Sometimes you'll see it on Last Rider Krauls that are specialized to fight Harseti. Then we come to Elegiac Candle. It lets rangers defense break targets with their various different attacks. Sometimes you use it for PvE, and rarely you'll see it on heroes like Red Litica in the hopes that she could use her skill 2 and defense break the whole team. Personally, in those last scenarios, I think Renewed Will is just generally better. So yeah, that's why it lands here. After that, we come to Manica of Control. It's primarily used on thieves who want extra hit chance to kill dodge units, mostly used on Last Piece Corinne, who's already a pretty niche counter pick. After that, we come to Pure White Trust. This gives souls to the team whenever a warrior uses a non-attack skill for the first time, making it function kind of like an ancient book to build souls for certain strategies. Next up, we come to Wukong's artifact, which I'm not going to try to pronounce. It gives a ton of crit chance and crit resistance to the user. Me personally, I think this is the most underrated artifact in the game at the moment, as it gives so much free equipment score in one artifact. It makes building certain heroes in ways that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, like say lifesteal or counter, possible. It is definitely a super underexplored artifact. I'm mostly putting it here in the niche category because every time I put this thing higher on a tier list in one of my videos, someone who doesn't actually watch the video and only screenshots my tier list, they'll post that screenshot on Discord servers and tell people how my opinions are trash because I rated this artifact so high and how I'm a bad player, so on and so forth. But you, dear viewer, who are actually watching this video and listening to what I have to say, clearly now you know that I think this thing is way better than where I have it placed on this tier list. After that, we come to Snow Crystal. This gives critical hit resistance and a combat readiness boost to the equipped warrior if they actually resist a critical hit. This is primarily used on Holiday Euphine versus Cleavers when your guide to a decision is tied up, maybe it's on things like Festive Ida. After that, Spatio-Temporal Fan. This gives stealth to the highest attack character on your team when you use a non-attack skill. Sometimes you still see it on Seafan and Politis, but at this point I feel like most players have moved on to something that is a bit more modern and better for the builds that we're playing. Next, Spear of Purification. When the enemy uses a non-attack skill, the equipped warrior gains combat readiness. Sometimes you'll see it on Lone Wolf Payra in case you outspeed them, so that way they can cut in front of the opponent to reestablish their foothold on a match. Usually Lone Wolf Payras that are on Guild War defenses. After that, Time Matter. This gives a damage increase to the equipped mage, and if they secure a kill, it reduces their cooldowns by 1 turn. I've used it in the past for various different hunt one-shot teams, and every once in a while, a mage build shows up that can take advantage of it in PvP. And lastly, Unforeseen Observer. This gives souls to your team when a ranger uses a non-attack skill. Randomly, you'll see it show up on things like Seafan Politis or maybe even a Hellion Lua, but again, it is very rare. And that's going to do it for my artifact selector tier list for this Epic Dash event for 2025. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them down in the comment section below or hit me up on my Discord, which is linked in this video's description. And if you have not seen the hero selector tier list for this event, I will link that down there as well. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.